Messages of condolence continue to pour in following the death of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, founder of the IFP and traditional Prime Minister of the Zulu monarch. For more reaction to this, we are joined by Archbishop Emeritus Cardinal Wilfrid Napier. Thank you so much for your time this evening. We do appreciate it, Archbishop. Let's just start off with what you remember with your interactions and engagements with the late Prince.
Well, these go back a very long way, and so I think my overall picture of Umntwana kaPhindange, commonly known as Gacha Buthelezi, is that, first of all, is like every human being, a person who was created by God and born into this world, like every man and woman, subject to original sin. And therefore, you're going to find some very good qualities in the man, but also some that are not so good, where there are weaknesses. What I remember most about him is very recently, I spent about 2 hours speaking to him in a hotel in Mhlanga Rocks. We're discussing the whole spectrum of issues, and he was showing great concern about the state of the country, the direction in which we were going, and so forth. And he was speaking as a man, but he was also speaking, I would say, as a politician, a statesman, and a believing Christian. And I think that's why he was always approaching the churchmen in order to engage with them. And we spent a very long time speaking together. Subsequent to that, not so long ago, we had a prayer meeting at eNCA in St. Mary's Parish Church, which is an Anglican church in the area near Mahlabatini, where Buthelezi used to often go for his services. And it was a most marvelous occasion of all the churches of KwaZulu-Natal coming together to pray for him. So I want to express my sympathies on my own behalf, but also on behalf of the KwaZulu-Natal Christian Council, the KwaZulu-Natal Church Leaders Group, to the family, to the nation, and to the Zulu nation in particular. But I think all of South Africa, we've lost a great man in Gacha Buthelezi's parting from this world.
I want to speak about your last engagement that you just mentioned, spending 2 hours with him and him showing great concern about the state of the country. He was also very open about his stern beliefs and, belief in prayer and praying for the nation, praying for the AmaZulu king. Speak to us about that experience. I'm trying to get a personal experience that you had with the late Prince.
Yes, on a number of occasions, but that one, when I spent that 2 hours with him, it was really a concern about what was going to happen after the departure of King Zwelithini and who was going to actually succeed him. It was still in that interim period, and he was really, really concerned. And I think he was taking it, first of all, in his role as the Prime Minister of the Zulu nation and of the royal house as well. But also he was looking at it very much from the point of view of a citizen of South Africa. And I think in a very particular way, as somebody who believed that faith has a role to play in our life in this country. And that's one of the reasons why we're going off the track so badly, is because we have departed from what he would consider to be the righteous way that God wants us as Christians to lead the country. I think those are some of the things. And so when we organized as the church leaders group to have that prayer meeting at eNCA at St. Mary's, he was really out of this world with delight that the church leaders had come together to pray for him and pray with him. He gave us a very long address on that occasion, raising concerns again about the state of the nation, the state of the Zulu people, and in particular, I think the relationship that was between the king and the royal house and himself. Those are some of the areas that I think revealed just how much of a man who cared not only about his own person, his own life, but particularly about those that he was, by his position, made responsible for. I really came to know him at a much deeper level than in the past, when it was more or less political sparring that was going on.
I want to speak about that deeper level, because you have two sides of his legacy that are being discussed at the moment. The side of him, the complex legacy that he leaves behind, the political role that he played, the fact that many say he needs to account for some of the massacres that took place, and others speaking about how he was very strict and straightforward. Was he strict with you? How were his engagements with you? Just as an ordinary man, not as a political or a royal person.
I think one of the features that nobody would have missed in the person of Archbishop Buthelezi was his great humility when he was speaking to people who were high up in the church. He always had a really a deference, I would say, almost. Always, he would speak very politely, but he would also be firm and principled in what he would be saying. And that often led to some very deep misunderstandings, I would say, because he was very straightforward in saying what he believed. And if you were just as straightforward, then you would have a real clashing of minds. But there was always that great respect. And I think the Prince Buthelezi was always trying to find what was going to be best for his people. On the occasion that we had that prayer at St. Gonjeni, he was very concerned about the state of the king's health, that he wasn't well and that he had needed to be treated in Swaziland. And the fact that he had gone without notifying people like himself, who was responsible should something go wrong, that affected him very much. And he was very straightforward. It didn't matter whether it was a bishop he was talking to or the king he was talking to. If he had a responsibility and his responsibility was being made more difficult by the actions of that person, he wouldn't hesitate to say so.
Just lastly, Archbishop, I want to ask you about the fact that he raised these concerns with a prayer and asking to pray for the state of the nation, but also for the AmaZulu king. What do you think it's going to look like moving forward, having lost Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, not only for the royal family, but for his political standing and role that he played in the IFP?
I think this is a general concern that we have as church leaders. We've been discussing this question over the last few months. And Buthelezi, I think that was the purpose of our going and having that prayer meeting with him, was to show him that we are in that same mind of concern for the future of the nation, not only the Zulu nation, but the whole of South African nation. And I think that his legacy now, as happens when people die, the emotional side is put aside and we start looking at the facts and looking at appreciations that had a significant impact on our lives, I would say. And therefore, I would expect that there'll be a lot more positives coming out from people looking back on the career, the life, and especially the principles which inspired and guided Chief Buthelezi.
Okay, thank you so much for your insights and sharing your experiences and relationship with the late Mangosuthu Buthelezi. That was Archbishop Emeritus Cardinal Wilfrid Napier. We'll be back after